Okay, you could start whenever.
Welcome back to another episode of the Born Again podcast. I'm Katie.
And I'm Joe.
One of my favorite things about recording day is the little reminders that Joe gives us before we start recording. He says things like, Katie, don't say like too much. And I'm going to try not to say yeah a lot. And we need to be slow. And Katie, you need to not be too mean. And I love that. So maybe you could just keep a running total of how many times I say like in this episode, and it'll help me change that bad habit.
That's a good accountability measure.
Okay, so today is going to be a really fun episode because we're doing a Q&A episode, and we got a ton of questions, and we're going to try to keep this episode maybe an hour, and if we don't go through all of them, we'll do an extended episode maybe on Patreon. So
I'll start a timer right now.
Nice. So we're going to kick this episode off with just like a super easy question, and it's something you're probably really familiar with because you probably just heard, and it's about our music. Somebody asked, did you or somebody make the song for your podcast, and if so, who? And Joe, you want to take this?
Yeah, I love so much how much attention the song has gotten, like on the Facebook group and people's comments on Instagram, and now we have a question about it because it was one of those things that we like barely put any time into. It's actually just the Apple loops built into GarageBand and dragged over this little piano riff and dragged over a little bass line to go with it. And that's how the song was born.
And both of us were like, oh, that kind of sounds nice.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Sounds like really like just kind of happy.
Like lighthearted and catchy. Let's just use that for now. That's what we said. And then 32 episodes later, here we are.
We were in the stage in our life where we heard someone say do B- work just to get stuff done more because we can tend to be perfectionists. Mm-hmm. And like, so we're like, oh, B- work gets the job done. And it's done now.
Yeah. I'm glad that the song landed though. Anyways, glad people liked it. All right. So the next question is, what has the general reaction been to your coming out and the podcast? Have old friends pretty much left you alone, or do you get messages, calls, or texts frequently? And the general reaction to the podcast has been wildly positive, way more positive than we ever would have imagined. In terms of our friends, I feel like our friends barely have heard from my friends at all about it.
We got we had a few initial responses from a couple really close friends, and then that was it. They did kind of leave us alone since then.
Yeah. But it was like maybe 3 messages from like people who had been really close friends. And even all 3 of those were seemingly like pretty soft and kind and like, I don't know, from as gentle as they could have been.
I think from your perspective they were, but there were a couple that to me that would have really like annoyed me, the phrasing of some of those. So don't be fooled by how kind and how much of a positive spin Joe puts on everything. I think that
my cousin actually like tried to roast me on my Facebook post when we came out though.
It was
that was a really bad
really
one.
Upsetting one.
So that was one.
I also had a little message. Well, I think that he wrote actually to Joe, but it was somebody from my past who I barely talk to, and he barely knows what I'm going through in my life. And I think that's why some of these reactions from Christians hurt is because these people haven't talked to you in like 10 years.
Yeah.
But
you should read that one.
I can read it. So he's writing to Joe. He said, I'm devastated about this, although I don't know you, Joe. For God so loved the world, ... all of his creation, ... that he gave his only son, ... I pray you will remember that, not in your intellect, but through the Holy Spirit that creates and sustains faith. May you know the peace of Christ that passes all understanding. I feel, okay. I don't know. I remember like that kind of hurt me a little bit in the beginning, but now it's kind of like, you're not really saying much here and you don't know what I went through. And so unless you do, you can't really speak to that. So,
I think that's the reason why it hurt was because you like barely knew him and it was clear that he didn't understand what we were going through, you know, but like he felt the liberty to comment and like give advice or whatever, or, you know.
We have been left alone, like I said, but I wonder now, I'm thinking about it, if the reaction was only because of how public we were about it for this, one post we put on Facebook. And we've been pretty quiet about it. We're pretty active on Instagram, but not a lot of our old Christian friends or not a lot of family are on there.
Mm-hmm.
We have personal accounts and so I don't think they would really see anything that we say about, the podcast.
Yeah. It seems like not a whole lot of negative reactions. And like I said, overwhelmingly positive in general.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so it's been okay.
So that leads us into the next question. It says, was there anyone in your life who was excited to hear that you were no longer a Christian?
And the answer is yes.
Yes.
I had kind of a surprising number of old friends that I had kind of just lost touch with. When I posted on Facebook, I received messages from them and comments on the post and stuff of people who were like pretty supportive of what we went through.
Mm-hmm.
And that actually, even more surprisingly to us at the time, was there were a few people from our old church who messaged us and were saying that they like completely resonated with where we were at and went through something similar. And it was super comforting, because I think that like stage of feeling super, super isolated is tough. And so it was really nice to kind of get like a warm welcome once we like went fully public with it. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. The next question is, how has your approach to Christmas changed? It says, I only recently deconverted, so this will be the first year celebrating the holiday not believing in Jesus as the reason for the season, and it's honestly been weird. This was my favorite holiday, and now I'm not sure how to interact with Christmas because all my family's traditions are so steeped in Christianity. I feel like you've always been more into Christmas, so maybe I'll let you take the lead on this one.
Yeah, I guess for me, we were talking about this today, that I think a lot of something that really helped us heal is we moved away, not because of our deconversion, but just we wanted to move to the West Coast, but it happened to be around that same time. And I think that we, being moved, kind of had to like create our own traditions around Christmas. So we have been able to celebrate a couple of them just because of the distance. So we sort of established what we want our Christmas to look like. But it has made Christmas weird in a different way, because when we do decide to go home for Christmas, it's such a large distance, so we have to stay with family. And thinking about church and kind of going to services was hard to navigate. A couple of years we tried to just kind of like switch to the opposite parent's house whenever the other one was going to church so we could avoid church. I don't know if you want to try it out. But that did work for a while, but that was before we told our parents. So we did that for a couple of years. And since we told them this past spring or summer, I feel that if we did decide to go home this Christmas, they wouldn't press us so much about the services. But it does make me uncomfortable because it's a time when people pray a lot and just talk about Jesus, or like, singing more Christmassy Christian songs. And it does make me uncomfortable in those situations. And I'm not really sure what to do. I'm definitely not going to stop them though, because they should be allowed to celebrate the Christmas how they want to. And if I'm there, I don't want to like be that party pooper.
Atheist
buzzkill. No. So, but I think like an important part of it now is to create your own traditions for however you want to celebrate Christmas. And so we do still celebrate Christmas. We like to have a Christmas tree, and we like to put pretty lights on and watch Christmas movies and kind of all of the things that you would do like as a secular 90s kid growing up with Christmas. It does bother me a little bit that Christ has to be in Christmas, but I'm still trying to just like treat it as completely a secular holiday and like not get, I don't know. I want to have a holiday still. Yeah. And so far we've been doing a pretty good job of keeping away from the religious part of it.
Yeah. I actually feel like more Christmassy, more into the Christmas spirit than I was when I was Christian. I think it's weird. I never really thought about it, but I don't think that for me, the Christmas holiday really had any special like spiritual significance to me. Like, even though I was crazy Christian and like praying all the time and had the strongest faith and all that, whatever, Christmas never felt like a very spiritual thing to me. It was kind of just like a really fun holiday where you eat tons of cookies and like open presents with your family. And it's Christmas,
Yeah, I feel like a lot of people get, like, Christmas is just a secular holiday.
Yeah.
And then I feel sometimes that Christians, like, just put their stamp on it.
Yeah.
But, like, everybody wants to eat cookies and get presents.
Right.
That's what it's about.
Like,
you
no
know
matter
what I mean?
religion you are, that is definitely the best part of Christmas. It's not like thinking about a baby in a manger.
It is, because you grew up like that. But, like, once you take it out, you realize that all of the best parts of Christmas are actually still there.
The other stuff. Yeah.
Okay. That's our opinion.
Yeah. All right. Next one. Are there any pro-theism arguments that have given us pause since deconverting? I had to think about this because it's been a while since I had a thought that, like, kind of stopped me in my tracks. I will say that the biggest, like, pro-theism argument that I get hung up on is creation or creationism. And I'm not talking about, like, young earth creationism. I just mean that, like, the idea that all of the entire universe and the earth and all of us and everything came from, like, nothingness for no reason is really hard for me to, like, accept that. Mm-hmm. So I guess that is a pro-theistic. Well, it's pro-theistic, not pro-Christian, you know,
yes.
Like, I can totally buy into the idea that there is, like, a God or, like, a energy source that created the universe and created the earth and created life and all of that. But, like, to me, that has nothing to do with Christianity or the Christian God, mm-hmm. you know? So, like, yeah, I would say I'm actually probably more in the camp of believing that the universe has purpose and, like, mm-hmm. was created or, like, is a manifestation of something else, rather than just, like, cold, empty science, you know? Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Cold, empty science.
Well, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah, no, I know exactly what you mean. When I heard this question, I was like, oh, this is a really good question. I had to think about it for a while too, because I feel like I'm kind of surprised that that there haven't been any arguments that have stopped me in my tracks
That's a
long time, because this is how it was when we were leaving, is that we were kind of waiting for those, and we studied apologetics, a couple things, and we've had some conversations. There have been some more progressive Christians that have talked to us, reached out to us, and we've listened to other podcasts, and I don't know. I really do try hard to stretch my mind, and I never want to be closed off to anything. And I haven't had anything that stopped me in my tracks in, like, a long time.
Yeah,
Is it given me pause in a long time. I think hell was my hang up for a long time, but
yeah, that was less of, like, an argument.
It wasn't an argument. It was more of a threat. But that fear is kind of just faded with time.
Yeah. Like you said, we actively were searching for the best pro-theistic arguments for a long time to try to save our faith, and, like, couldn't find anything. I'm actually really curious now to hear what other people's, like, best pro-theism arguments are, mm-hmm. because I don't know. I feel like I haven't ever been, like, super impressed by any of them. Mm. Okay. Next one. Do you have any spiritual practices that you still do that are no longer focused on a God presence, like meditation, etc.? What things keep you feeling grounded now in place of prayer, etc.? So we've talked about meditation quite a bit on here, but we both have a pretty much daily meditation practice. I guess, like, when we're doing really good, then it's a daily meditation practice. No, it's not daily,
but that is, like, the thing that keeps us grounded. Mm-hmm. If we need grounding, then I think that for us, meditation, I can feel the difference in it. I've, like, even have, like, a couple times in my life when I, like, really dedicated myself to it, and I, like, look back at those times and remember, you know, feeling so peaceful and grounded.
It makes, like, a super tangible difference to me.
I think, like, the things that have been replaced are kind of, like, checking in with myself, thinking about my emotions, and, like, actively not trying to shame myself, taking deep breaths, and kind of just being, like, remembering and reminding myself to live in this present moment and think about how this present moment will never exist again, and, like, kind of appreciating it. Yeah. And that's kind of been my, I don't know if it's a mantra, but something that I come back to for the past couple years now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's really great. I think that we were surprised to find that there's there like totally is a sense of spirituality on the other side of organized religion. And I personally really enjoyed that, really enjoyed exploring meditation and reading different books by like different spiritual people. And yeah, it's been cool.
Mm-hmm. All right, next question. How do you plan to handle the subject of religion if when you guys have kids? Have you thought about how you'll set boundaries with your religious family when it comes to your kids? So we've had a lot of questions about children, and I just have to say, and everybody knows, we don't have any children. And so just take everything we say about this with a grain of salt, because we don't know what it's like to be parents or the struggles of being a parent at all. So what do you think?
I tried to like visualize this and tried to imagine having kids. And obviously that's not the same thing as the real thing. But I feel like I would want to be so protective of my kids around this area. And I don't mean like shutting them off from everything, but I would want to be like very open and very clear to them, like what we believe and like what the different options are to believe and stuff like that when they're older. But when they're younger, I would not want my family to like bring them to church, or I would not want my family to like try to influence them in that way. And I don't even know that I would have to have that conversation with my parents. Like I feel like they probably wouldn't cross that line on their own anyways. But if they were, like, I would totally set a hard boundary. Like, you guys cannot talk to my kids about religion. Like, that's a really personal thing. And I think it's, like, that's not for them to decide, you know?
Them meaning your
my parents. Yeah.
I think it's hard because I was even thinking about this today. At what age do you have, like, sort of a religion talk with your kid? Like, how, you know, young is too young for them to understand the concepts. Because I think that when we talk about having kids, we talk about how we wanted to make them feel that they can ask us any question, that there's no shame in, you know, anything that they'd want to know. Yeah. And I'm sure that's like a lot easier said than done. But I'd like to create a community where we talk about things and talk about what we think about, like, I guess I would like to create and foster a sort of a family community of questioning and like being healthy questioning and always like asking, why do we have to do this? Or what is this all about? And I'd like a safe environment. I'd like to teach my kids to like question everything.
Yeah, for sure. There were a lot of questions about children, and I really sympathize with you guys who are kind of having to answer these questions for yourself, because there's like a lot to consider.
I don't know what I would do if I was a Christian family, like, and we had children when we deconverted, and there had already been an established sort of relationship that my parents had with my children, you know, a Christian relationship. I think that would be a lot harder than now having kids as just non-Christian people.
Right.
But like, if we were in the middle of it with children, I think that that's something that would need to be taken one step at a time, and like just a lot of honest communication with parents. Like, I think it starts with telling them where you're at, and then like let that sink in for a while, and then being like, all right, like we're going to try to set some boundaries for our children.
Yeah. Right.
All hypothetical.
All hypotheticals. Yeah.
All right. This is a little bit similar because it's about children, but this question says, if you were to have children in the future, would you circumcise them? We talked about this for a little bit.
Yeah, I would not. Yeah. I don't know. It seems, I haven't like read a lot about this or like listened to podcasts about it. But it seems weird to me that we would like cut a piece of a child's body off of them for some reason. If it's for hygiene, then that seems like a stupid reason. Yeah. So, well,
I liked how you said today that it's like cutting off a piece of your ear because it's hard to clean behind your ear.
Yeah.
Like, because you wouldn't want to cut your ear because it would look crazy.
Because it would look crazy and you wouldn't have an ear.
I think it's hard to say because we obviously don't have children, but about the hygiene thing, I would think that first I would do a little bit of research and I would see if that's just like debunked or if that's even real or if it's fine, you know? And then if it was like not really a big deal, then I would say, no, I would not like to circumcise my kid. And if they wanted to when they got older, that's his decision. But like, I think that it's genital mutilation. And I know that it's very cultural and not even people don't do it for religious reasons anymore at all. But like, it has to start somewhere with someone saying something about it. And like, you know, I think that, yeah, I guess like I would want to be like starting that tradition or whatever in my family and talk about it with the kid,
right?
And Joe said something funny today about it. I was like, do you wish that you weren't circumcised? And what did you say?
I said, yeah, I wish I wasn't circumcised.
And why did you say that?
Because I want everything to be there.
Okay, it's an interesting perspective. It's weird. I don't have anything to do with
cut
that.
Something off of me. I don't want that.
I don't know.
Yeah, weird. All right, next question. It says, my spouse still believes, and I left the faith over a year ago. We are currently separated. What are your thoughts towards the best way to reconnect? We got a few questions similar to this, where it was one partner in a relationship was deconverting and the other one was still really devout, and questions around kind of that situation. Obviously, just like the kids thing, we don't have personal expertise in that area. But I think that something that we've learned over the last year is that there's nothing more precious than just totally open, honest communication. It's kind of surprising for me now. I hear some people's stories of one spouse who's left the faith more than a year ago and still hasn't told the other spouse. In the relationship that I have with you now, Katie, that would be so preposterous if one of us had a secret that big that we were keeping from the other one. So yeah, I think at this point I just crave open, totally honest conversations so much, or communication, that I would say you need to set up a time and talk and say everything, get everything out in the open, nothing in the shadows, nothing left hidden. Yeah, I don't know. What do you think?
I think that, it's not even about being honest. They might already know that you're not a believer anymore and all of that, but I notice it, in our relationship, if I'm not honest about something small, or if we aren't actively talking every single day about kind of where we're at today, where do we feel, I feel disconnected from Joe. And I know that you feel that from me too. And I think that ever since we kind of left this religion, we realized that there were a couple kind of taboo things we don't talk about. You don't talk about masturbation, you don't talk about divorce, you don't talk about certain scary sex things, you don't talk about your sex life if you had one before you were Christian. You don't talk about, I don't know, there's a couple of things you just don't talk about. You wouldn't talk about a polyamorous relationship. You wouldn't, definitely, And I think that what I've realized is, well, I'm sorry. And the biggest of all, you wouldn't talk about necessarily doubts. You wouldn't talk about little nuanced thoughts or weird, sinful maybe thoughts you're thinking, or maybe you wouldn't talk about porn with me.
Right.
So that, I think I didn't realize it, but it really created a divide. And we have, just been radically honest with each other these past 2 years. And even these past couple months that we've had some other conversations that I just I feel they maybe seem a little bit taboo or could maybe offend the other person. But we've really tried to not be offended by anything that the other person brings up, because it's a way that we stay connected. And I guess what I'm trying to say is that I think that if you're going to be in a relationship with someone and you're going to be that close with someone, it's super important for me, and I don't know, maybe other people, to be completely open. And if that can't be, then I don't understand. I guess I don't understand how a relationship can happen.
Right.
Because I think that it needs to have a coreness of just complete honesty.
Yeah. That
being said, if you completely share yourself and the other person is able to completely share yourself, and that doesn't do anything, or an agreement can't be made, or any kind of compromise, then I don't know where you go with that. And I think that you just kind of have to follow your instincts.
Yeah, right.
I think that ultimately that more people should feel their instincts of what they think they need to do in a situation.
Yeah.
Trust their gut. And I think it's hard coming from being, in Christianity.
I can really empathize. I guess as you were talking, I was just thinking that I can really empathize with a person who doesn't want to share something with their spouse because they don't want to like break their spouse's heart, or they don't want to hurt their spouse's feelings, because I think that I was that way with you for like the first 7 years of our relationship. We've been married for 8 years. It's like, feel like fairly recently I've kind of come around on that. But like where I kind of tried to like manage your reaction to what I was going to say to you, or I try to avoid telling you things that would upset you or whatever. And so I can really empathize with having something that you know is going to like really, really hurt your partner. And so you don't want to say it to them. But that being said, I've now kind of come to realize that if I'm going to be in a relationship with someone, I want to take full responsibility for like what's actually happening, what's actually happening in my life. If there's something scary in my mind, I don't want to like hide from it and hide it from my partner. I want to face it, and I want to face it with my partner together. Like I want to turn towards the scary stuff in my life and like approach it head on. I don't want to hide anymore. And I think at this point for me, like not sharing something with you in order to protect your feelings feels like kind of hiding from a problem that needs to be addressed. You know what I mean? So yeah.
Yeah. And I think there's no real advice here. There's just kind of opinions and totally. Feeling it out and feeling what feels right for you. But yeah, that's how we feel.
All right. How do you handle talking to Christians? Do you ask them questions about faith and try to get them to see the light and find freedom? Or do you let them be and find common ground elsewhere? I think this is another one where you kind of just need to use your judgment. I feel like personally in my life, there are certain Christians that I have talked to about my like new beliefs and the fact that I left the faith and stuff like that. But there are also tons that I haven't brought it up to, and I like definitely won't unless they bring it up, like there's just certain times there's no reason to even bring up like your religion in a conversation with a person. And so, yeah,
I think let them be. I feel like everybody needs like the example of taking the stress off religion. Like, why do we have to tell each other, like, why do we have to be right? Or why do we have to like, share our beliefs and make religion the focus? And because like that was my focus for so long, I kind of want to let a couple relationships be for a while and just like kind of figure out who that person is more.
Like connect as a person.
Yeah. Connect more as a person.
Yeah.
But maybe in the future, I think it's like good too to do that, especially if you're kind of like I was like really angry for a while about it. If I would have talked about it, it would have been too personal, and I would have gotten upset. So like taking a break and just kind of like letting people be and like think what they want to think is like, it's kind of a good practice for you as a person who you weren't like allowed to feel that way,
right?
I guess for most of your life.
Yeah.
So far.
All right, next one. As you're freeing yourselves from shame, what has the impact been on your feelings toward your parents, given that our parents, wittingly or not, are so instrumental in teaching us shame? Has your relationships with your parents been impacted by your growing self-acceptance?
I think both of our relationships have been impacted. I think that since we told our parents about this all, like, this podcast or just being ex-Christian, we both noticed a change in our relationships with them. And I think that there's just a sense of taking responsibility for our lives more and kind of I feel a little bit more grown up. I think I didn't realize how I was probably hiding a lot from my parents. And this is like the biggest one. And kind of putting that out in the open has made me feel like, I don't know, I want to have a good relationship with them now. And I don't really think I wanted that before. So, and I feel it could be just age, just growing older, but, I feel like it's largely linked to that huge thing I was honest with. And because of that, it like was I felt like it took an amount of bravery and just like self, acceptance and believing in myself to do it. And I really think it kind of opened the door to like being that way in front of my parents more. And I think that like living out here, like away from them has really like helped me like just become my own person separate from them, regardless of the shame they taught me and all of that. And I think that has really been good for our relationship
for sure.
with them.
Yeah. I think like the step of telling my parents what I was going through was like the first step in kind of breaking that bond with them. Because like I was just saying in the last question, I like didn't want to tell them for the longest time because I was kind of trying to protect their feelings and like manage their reaction. But at a certain point, like that was going so hard against my own values that I had to stand up for myself, and I like had to tell them even though it might hurt their feelings. And I think that that moment was kind of like a separation of my values and their values. I think I heard someone say once that guilt is what you experience when you cross your own values, and shame is what you experience when you're crossing somebody else's values. And so for me, like that moment of telling my family kind of made me not care so much about their values anymore. Like it was like a moment of like, okay, from this point on, I like kind of can't care what they think.
Well, when you're going through this, you're really having to examine your values
Totally,
because you were given your values before, and now you're examining your values like really like under a microscope. And so you really, really know, and to a certain degree, what you want, what you need. And so that makes it less shameful, you know, because you don't have that shame of caring what those other people want of you, because you were living under their values and religion's values before. And now you're kind of your own person. Yeah.
It's great. Yeah. So it's really improved our relationships with our families.
Okay. Next question.
All right. How do you think you'd respond if you were still a Christian and your parents deconverted? Ooh. How would you want them to approach you with the topic? Dang, that's a really good question.
This is a good question.
Yeah, I know. Obviously, I don't have this perspective, but in my visualization of what I would do, and if I think through it, I kind of want to go back to what I said about the partners in relationship, that I would want my parents to be 100% open and honest about like exactly what they went through from start to finish. Like, yeah, I know that it would be like super, super hard to hear, but I feel like it would really make me respect my parents and like trust them more and like honor them as people if they were willing to like just totally bare themselves to me.
You think?
You know? Yeah, I think so, because I don't know, if I went into ministry and I was like working in ministry and then found out like 5 years later that my parents had like left the faith and then didn't tell me about it, that would really hurt, you know? It would be weird.
I think it would hurt either way.
It would hurt either way, but I think that like the aftermath of the hurt from the honesty is like way more open and wholesome and whatever, you know, it's like, that's like a way more pure route to take. And I think that I'd have a lot better relationship with my parents if they were being totally honest with me than if they were like kind of hiding to protect me. Yeah.
I think that in like, as far as like a way to do it, I was thinking about this, that I would rather have them tell me in person than how I did it, send an email, or how you did it, phone call. Because since like deconverting or whatever, I've read like a couple stories of people who had long conversations with their parents just sitting in the living room. And I kind of wish that I already would have had that conversation, like a long back and forth with my parents. And I can see myself, if I'm thinking about this happening like in our height of Christianity, I can see myself reacting in a similar way that some Christians have reacted to us, you know, toward my parents. Yeah. But like, I think it's just because that's the only way you kind of know how to react as a Christian. And I feel like I'm just trying to say, maybe don't take it too personally. Yeah. Because I think that I could have been kind of snobby back to my parents.
Oh, for sure.
And, but like, I don't know, you can't account for like what will happen to you in a couple of years.
That's a good point. Yeah, actually, because I think that if I was in my height of my Christianity and my parents said that to me, I probably would have been like really upset by that. Yeah. You know, which I mean, it's kind of expected, and I don't think I'd change my answer. Like, I think I'd still want them to be totally honest, because like I said, you're going to be like hurt either way, or it's going to affect the relationship either way. So like, I think I would still rather they choose honesty or like whatever, openness, I guess.
Maybe like in person.
Yeah. But I think in person, and after having a lot of difficult conversations this year, I think like just scheduling a time to like sit down and have a conversation about something is going to feel like kind of awkward and uncomfortable, but that feeling after the conversation is done is so worth it. Or at least it has been in my experience. So yeah, that was a fun hypothetical to play. again, I know this is like probably way harder when you're actually in the situation than it is for us, like talking about it so lightheartedly right now. But yeah.
I think the biggest thing for like is like just to not take people's reactions personally, but like look at it as more of an exercise for you to be free. Because I'm thinking about it more and I'm like, I don't know. I mean, like there is a likelihood of you getting a good reaction in the person, like just completely seeing what you see. But I feel like it is also very likely that they'll, you know, have just a very Christian reaction, like how I would have reacted or you. And that's just because I don't know. It's just like we all know why. We can all like look at ourselves back in that point and see, I guess if someone would have come to me in this way, I think I might have reacted like in a similar way. Maybe not like so hateful, but just kind of like I don't understand and like what's going on with your life. Like, you know? Yeah. So I feel like it's good to practice not taking those reactions personally.
Yeah. Because we can empathize with them.
Yeah, we can empathize with them.
For sure. All right. How have you gotten through the mourning of losing your identity and losing valuable years of your life? I invested everything for decades and there's no rewind button. Yeah, I mean, I think everyone who goes through this deconversion process has like a lot to mourn about, you know, like we all missed out on a lot. And I think it's like super valid to feel a major sense of loss for the years that you like lost, you know?
I think that for me, because I tend to spend a lot of time in mourning for things, you know, or regret. And, I feel like I'm not this much of a hard ass, but I think I need hard truths. Like I like when people kind of tell me hard truths, because I think it's what I need to hear. But like, I feel like there is that sense of you need to accept your emotions as valid. And I need to, like, for me, I need to be like, yeah, that sucked. Like that really, really sucked. And that you are valid in feeling that way, or like that is an emotion you would have if you experienced this. Totally. But do you want to stay in that mindset right now for a while, or do you want to get out of it? And like, has staying in that mindset helped you with anything besides just like remembering your past? And of course the answer is no, it doesn't help you. So you kind of need to, you know, remind myself like, okay, get up and move forward. And I feel like that's with like a lot of things in life. I noticed myself getting caught up in regret, or just being like, oh, I wish I was this way, or I wish this was differently about my life. And, it's really addictive for me. And I tend to I love thinking about that so much, but I need to stop myself and be like, yeah, okay, that's valid. But like, is it helping you? Is it making you happier, healthier? No. And what do I want for my life? I want to be happier and healthier. Okay. So I need to like move forward and not, ruminate on that.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think like super practically, we like literally made a practice of exactly what Katie just said. Like if you notice yourself getting caught up in that resentment of the past, like literally stop, take a deep breath, like pull out your phone, write down in a note what you're feeling right now in your body, like breathe through that, you know, give yourself a little affirmation that like, hey, I know I went through something hard, but like, what am I going to do with my life now? Like, who cares? I went through something hard. Who cares? What am I going to do now? And go about your day. And maybe when you first start, you're going to have to do that 10 times a day. But I promise you, if you do that for a month every day, like you're going to feel significantly different after just practicing that new habit, you know? Yeah. So next question. How do you account for differences in deconversion? You guys have landed in a human/atheist camp, which is fine. And I feel like I've landed in a progressive/inclusive/spiritual camp as a means of dealing with the unexplainable and the mystery of life. I
think that first of all, how do you account for differences in deconversion? I think that, I want to be like that annoying teacher right now and say, so the first thing about this is, well, I think that we need to stop thinking about camps. Because like really, we haven't landed in a camp. And I guess it's fine if someone did, but like, I think that like I want to stop being too focused on that, because it's fine. Like no matter whatever anybody believes now, kind of.
Yeah, I know what you're saying. Like in a way, like I don't want to be too preoccupied with like how anybody else views the world. Because for so long, I was like so preoccupied with how everybody views the world. And so, yeah, I think like my answer would be like, to me, it's kind of just, it's fine. It's, it's fine. I think I don't know where you are right now, like with what we were just talking about before, but like I said, I think I like recently kind of switched from like an atheist humanist camp to a more, it's not even a camp, but like I feel better when I choose to believe that something created all this, or that like this is something more natural and organic than like whatever empty space with no meaning. So like, I don't know, I want to be really fluid in it. And you know,
I think that too, that like we don't know what each other's camps necessarily are. And I feel like I think that I really am a firm believer of like not identifying so strongly with things because it just creates this kind of you versus me. And like, I would never describe myself as an atheist just like off the bat to someone, but sometimes it's like the easiest way to talk about it when you're in a middle of a conversation. Because day to day, I'm like a pretty spiritual person. But I just don't talk about that because I think it's like, it's really personal and it's not like necessarily helpful to everyone because they might have a different way of thinking about their spirituality.
And the thing is that like none of us know the like ultimate truth about the meaning of any of this. And so like, it doesn't matter. I feel like we can all just kind of choose what we want to think and all just get along like a big happy family. All right. So the next question says, is there anything you miss from Christianity? The thought of an afterlife, the idea of a divine purpose, etc. Yeah, I think in a way there are things that I miss from Christianity. And actually both of those things are probably like the biggest examples for me. I think like the idea of an afterlife and especially for me, the idea of a divine purpose. I took a lot of comfort in those things. And so like losing that was really difficult. Like probably the hardest part of leaving Christianity for me was losing my divine purpose, and like caused me to get depressed and like it's super hard. So I miss the comfort of that in a way. But I will say that the further I get from Christianity, the more I'm realizing that like I can choose my own purpose for this life. And right now anyways, that feels like so much more beautiful and like human than what I had previously with Christianity. Like the purpose that was just given to me was kind of like a shallow, like overly sweet thing. And me choosing my own purpose feels like a real, like significant, I don't know. It feels like heavier and more beautiful and more significant than it did as a Christian. So I don't really miss that.
It took you a while to get there.
But it took me a long time to get there. Yeah. And like, even still, I think there's some times where I have that thought and that feeling where I'm just like, oh, like I really miss knowing all the answers. I really miss like being on the good team,
The good team.
I really miss feeling like I'm part of like the good people on earth, and not that I feel like I'm part of the bad people on earth now, but I feel like there are no teams, which again is better, but like there is some comfort in being part of like a tribe. So yeah.
I kind of missed, like how the fantasy of it, like you were part of a fairy tale almost, like, especially because of us, we were kind of like Pentecostal, charismatic. We thought like we could heal people and like, there were special gifts and it was almost as if you're living a fairy tale. There's a war going on and it's the good versus evil and there's a king and at the end, like you're going to win and, and everything's going to be all right. It seems like a classic Lord of the Rings, kind of just fairy tale. Yeah. And I liked kind of thinking about that. And sometimes we talk about it like, oh, isn't it cool that our life is kind of like, special in this way.
Isn't it cool that magic is real?
Yeah, isn't it cool that magic is real? And looking back on it now, I don't necessarily miss that, but I do feel it's like that kind of sense of where you're nostalgic almost, but you kind of like grew out of something and you feel like you just kind of miss like playing with that thing when you were a kid or having that kind of an imagination when you were a kid. I mean, and it goes along with religion being very childlike. And I think that does seem like a good thing when you're in it, but now like looking back for me, it's been like one of the biggest ways in which I felt kind of hurt by religion is just how childlike everything was, and just kind of a sense of feeling very young and naive and just insecure, not safe when I'm not under the Father. Mm-hmm. And so now I look back on it with like a little bit more of a nostalgia in a way. Like I miss it, but I feel like I'm better off here.
Yeah, totally.
I guess.
Yeah, that makes sense. All right. What did you do with all those Christian books and extra Bibles? Like donate, trash, recycle, give them back to your parents? What religious books have you kept?
Okay, so we had, when we were moving out of one of our apartments, we had decided like a little bit months before that we weren't Christian anymore. We decided to throw away all of our Bibles.
It felt like a therapeutic thing.
Yeah, in a way. It was like, it feels like it's blasphemous to throw this book in the trash.
Yeah.
But I think we should do it because I think it would be really healing for
Especially
us.
because I had like a baller study Bible with like that thick, soft leather cover, and it had that pristine gold edges on all the papers.
Dang, we should have sold it.
And it had the little tabs on the side, like with the different books kind of like cut into the pages. So it was like a baller Bible.
Mine was really nice too, like soft leather cover.
I can remember like walking out around the side of our apartment and opening the trash can lid and throwing it in and feeling something in my body when I did that.
Oh my gosh, we're going to hell now.
Yeah.
Kind of that kind of feeling. And I threw away my journal, which I'm actually really bummed about now.
Mad we did that too.
Okay, yeah, so don't throw away your Bibles because actually it was super therapeutic, but also if you start a podcast, you might want to read from it.
Yeah, and actually it's funny, since then we've like gone to the store. We went to Goodwill and bought a Bible for a house.
Yeah, we're like, how do we get a Bible?
Because we read the Bible now more than we did. Like
that's not true. Not
we
more.
We read the Bible quite a bit now, surprisingly. Yeah. But yeah, it was weird, like having to go and buy a Bible now.
Have we kept any religious books?
I had a lot of nonfiction Christian books, like about how to be a better Christian, and I'm pretty sure I sold or threw away all those.
Yeah, I don't think we have any more Christian books.
I kind of wish we had them for this like podcast application, because I feel like it'd be good research.
We do have one. We have The Reason for God, or God.
The Reason for God.
Is that what it's called?
Yeah.
Yeah, we have that one because your mom gave it to us recently.
Yep. All right. It says, this is pretty shallow, but I'm genuinely curious. Are there any Christian music artists you still enjoy post deconversion? I can't listen to Christian music. There was a lot of Christian artists I liked, and I think, I can't really listen to them because I just don't enjoy it anymore. It's
what about Under Oath?
They weren't really Christian. I could listen to Under Oath still.
So, what about My Children, My Bride?
And I could listen probably to like some of the Christian metal bands, like My Children, My Bride, or like a Plea for Purging, because like they didn't really sing about God that much, like a little bit. But like I could not listen to For Today, or I could not listen to some like the Ember Days. Obviously, it's like super worshipy,
Yeah, most of this
really
stuff
triggers me.
I can't listen to. I guess one of the things I can listen to that you said you can't is Kai Kai. I don't know if anybody knows that band. I don't know their story now. I don't know if they're still Christian, but I think that I have like some really good memories tied to that band that that didn't have anything to do with Christianity, and I think that's why. But when I hear it, it reminds me of like 2014, and it makes me feel really happy.
It kind of sucks because I really like their music. Musically, I really like it, but that band in particular is like so closely tied to my Christianity, because I like so connected with it when I was a Christian that now it has to just stay in the past for me.
No, I get that.
Yeah. How have you built community outside of the church?
Oh, so this next part is, somebody wrote a similar question to that, but they wrote this really good, just like an insight into how it is like having friends in the church, and we wanted to read it.
So it said, I can see now that my entire life I accepted an artificial substitute for real friendships. Honestly, I didn't even have any real friends until I began to exit the church. Here's the horrifying truth around my friendships. Somehow, a person saying they were a believer was enough to make someone my friend, and all that goes with it. Trustworthy, a prayer partner, sister or brother in the Lord. I never even thought about the fact that this total stranger in Bible study never had to do the real work of building trust and affinity. While I was in the movement for nearly 50 years, I couldn't even see how shallow these friends were. After all, we were sisters and brothers in Christ. We were going to spend eternity together, and we shared our prayer requests and concerns each week. I was constantly attracting lousy people through this boundaryless, single-topic approach to friendships. but I just couldn't see it because Jesus was all that mattered. So I just needed other people as obsessed with Christian thinking.
I thought this was well said.
That is so well said. I never thought about it like that before, but it's really true. I think like I felt like I had a ton of friends when I was a Christian, but like those friends were only friends because they were also Christians and they were also my gender and they were also fairly close to my age. Like that was all it took to be a friend. Like when I was a Christian, it was like you had to believe in God in a similar way to I do and be a boy and like be within like 10 years of my age.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's weird. I did have a ton of those kind of like shallow friendships.
I didn't realize it until like I saw other people writing about it on Reddit and stuff, that how shallow the friendships were. They're not saying, I don't want to like say necessarily that they were shallow, but that there wasn't a lot else that we had in common. And that like when that one commonality went away, it was the most important one. And so like your friendship kind of fades away. I think that's probably why we don't really have a lot of our friends from our past, because there's really not much, there's not a connection there. Like
we never had like a friendship
there's not a deep connection. No.
Yeah.
I think other people have talked about this, and I've mentioned it, is that a lot of my friendships did feel more like mentory. Like if there was somebody who was older than me, I felt that they were my older sister and they, you know, spoke truth into my life. And that's kind of how our relationship was. And so when we moved, I was really craving friendship, and I didn't really know what that was going to be like. And I remember we were still Christian, and I prayed for that. That was one of the last things I prayed. I mean, besides praying for God to show up in my life, I prayed for like friendships. I was like, I want friends. Yeah. That's all I want, because I feel I haven't had anybody who is really that close with me. And so I think we had a couple questions about how to build friendships now on the other side. And we were thinking about this, is that church is like kind of like a banger place to make friends, because if you're not religious, you struggle with making friends. But people who go to church, you're surrounded by all of these like-minded people. You see them, you know, at least once a week on Sunday mornings. And, you know, we had a lot of those friends in church, and like, I do kind of miss the community of it.
I can see that like if we had kids too, and our kids were friends with other kids in the church, that would like super amplify that feeling of losing your community as well. Yeah,
definitely. So I think that we just need to feel blessed that we all had that upbringing, because like a lot of people don't even have that kind of thing growing up, if they're not religious, you know. And so we just need to figure out how to make friends like everybody else,
like secular
had
people.
To the whole time. And I think that since like church is kind of like your hobby, that a good way to make friends now is to find a hobby and then try to connect to people. I think it's great that we have Instagram now, and you know, and we've connected to a lot of people through that.
Yeah, we're photographers, and like through photography, we've met a ton of friends, you know? Yeah.
Yeah. And that's kind of how we've met most of our friends. We've like had a hobby, like picked a hobby that we really got into, and then just started like reaching out to other people. We did it personally through Instagram.
Yeah.
But like, I think it's kind of like hard. You kind of have to network, and it is really annoying, and it takes a lot of time. And now I would say that we have less friends, but less friends than we had in church, but the relationships are way stronger, and they feel like, more equal. There's a sense that anybody, you know, can say anything, and anybody can give advice to anyone. There's no person who's higher, like more spiritually, like longer, whatever. Yeah. What am I trying to say?
We're just all like, equals. Like there's
spiritually older, whatever. Right. We're equals, and we're allowed to like question things, and we're allowed to disagree and all of that. And it's just like, it feels like a more free relationship.
Yeah, for sure. All right. Next one. What about prophetic words that were spoken over you? Do you feel like you can shake the hope that they still might be true, or the fear that you missed out?
And I think, should this one be our last question?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
So,
words.
This is a good question too, and something we've thought about, because we have both had like what felt like really significant prophetic words spoken over us. And I think I've told this story before, but that, like at a house church, Benny Hinn's brother, Sam Hinn, spoke a prophecy over me and singled me out in the back of the living room and said, like, something like this: I can sense the Holy Spirit is really strong on you. And I know that if you answer his call, God is going to use you to change the life of tons of people. And that was like super impactful for me when I was a Christian. Like that was really, really significant. And then us together, actually I was at that same house church, wasn't it? Different people, but prophesied over us as a couple and said like, I could tell that God is going to use you two specifically to like counsel and mentor other couples and like help other couples in their relationship with God. And we took that really seriously, you know, but the ironic thing is that I feel like we're both like helping people spiritually now more than I ever did as a Christian person.
Yeah.
So like,
I feel like our prophecies are fulfilled.
Yeah, they're fulfilled. So don't have to miss out on them.
I think it's funny because in both cases, those people knew nothing about us. So I feel like it was kind of, I think that there's a way that you can kind of like judge on appearance. So like by just how someone, like that we were like probably one of the only married couples at this house church.
Yeah,
and we're both like
young,
you know, ripe with life, you know, ready to go.
Yeah.
And I think that I kind of feel that now looking back is when I prophesied or spoke or prayed over people that it was based a lot on appearances and stuff. But yeah, we like reframed them because now, you know, Joe, I think that he is like really calming and like, I feel that he could be someone that people would go to. I feel like people could tell you things and you're just a great listener. And I think that you give really good advice and you're very like calming presence. And I think that's like a spirit in you, you know, like that's like that's the Holy Spirit on you.
Yeah.
I feel that like you in a way are living that out. And I think that us, like as a couple, yeah, we are talking about spirituality and like, or lack of spirituality or like how our old past affected us. And it is in line in a way with the prophecy reframed, you know? I think that like a lot of different like religions and like, or things like that, they have their own ways of saying the same things, but in the context of their religion. And I look at the prophecy like that. You are saying something that like other people could say and like another guru, but you're putting it in the context of your religion. So that's the only way you frame life.
Right.
So like if you reframe it for how we want to see it, then we're doing it.
Yeah, you're right. You've brought that up a few times and we maybe mentioned it on the podcast before, but like we're really trying to spot the things in us and in each other that we were really good at as Christians and kind of trying to see like what the equal skill or whatever is on the other side of Christianity. It's like you're saying, maybe
like how can we use our gifts?
Yeah. So like maybe
on the outside
as a Christian, I like really got so much life and was like really good at discipling people. Well, when I left Christianity, I kind of mourned like losing that skill that I was using. But now I'm realizing like, oh, maybe I'm just like really good at talking to people, or maybe I still have all those same skills.
Maybe you really like helping people. Like that gives you life, you know, and you can do that in other ways, I guess. And maybe that's how you can live out your prophecies that were spoken over you. I'm not sure if you can reframe them, but like, that's kind of like what we've done with ours.
I mean, if the prophecy says that like you're going to lay your hands on someone and their arm is going to regrow, then you might miss out on that prophecy.
Yeah, maybe that's one.
But you might not. You never know.
Or if the prophecy says that at midnight you'll change into a swan and then you'll have to swim the whole ocean, like across the ocean. And then when you get there, you'll turn back into a beautiful woman, no matter what you were before. And then you have to sing a song. And then that's going to save the world, then I guess like you should really like keep an eye on that and see if it'll come true still.
Something like that I would test. I would make it a point to swim.
I would just hold out and see when it happens. Okay, we're going to wrap up right there. Those were some amazing questions and we have a bunch more that we really wanted to answer. And what we're going to do is answer a few more of them over on our Patreon. So look out for that. Ooh, another fun announcement that we have this week is that we have a new merch store. And I've been having a lot of fun making some very random designs that I hope you'll like. And we'll link to that store on all of our various social medias, I suppose, because I don't know the URL off the top of my head. But it's really fun. And I hope you like it.
Yeah, you guys should totally check it out. It's really good.
So we hope you guys enjoyed this episode and we'll see you later.